Just like bamboo trees, our small and medium businesses are expected to demonstrate strength and remarkable resilience, surviving in the harshest conditions. Despite the unprecedented challenges brought by the pandemic, some are still standing, eager to move on after the reopening of the economy, but some still struggling. Those who recovered, the adoption of digitalization, newfound creativity, and improved operational efficiency are some examples of agility. So what have they learned from the pandemic to become more agile? Challenges vary according to the types and sizes of the businesses. Big or small, all businesses experience unique challenges during the pandemic. Some obvious, some obscure. Join us as we uncover the hidden tales of our SMEs in their journey to build and rebuild resilience for a better, brighter future. I am Muhammad Mafrukin Mohtar, and this is The Insights. Small and medium enterprises, in short, SMEs, are the backbone of the Malaysian economy, representing about 97% of overall business establishment in 2020, out of which 76% are micro enterprises. SME contribute 38.2% of Malaysia's GDP and 48% of national employment as of 2020. So, according to the Department of Statistics Malaysia in 2020, also the growth of SME's GDP registered at negative 7.3%, which has lower than Malaysia's GDP for the first time over the past 17 years since 2003. Together with us, we have very experienced and distinguished guests to look into what are the challenges faced by the SMEs during the pandemic, and we want to uncover some of the stories, even the endemic phases, also what happened to these SMEs and whatnot. So we have, on my right, I have Dr. Rosman Ibrahim, Managing Director of LaCrista Hotel, and we have Associate Professor Dr. Melati Nungsari, Associate Professor of Economics at the Asia School of Business and a research affiliate at MIT Sloan School of Management. Thank you for joining The Insights. Welcome. How are you, Dato? Prof, are you okay?
Good.
Good. All right. So I would like to start with Dato. You know, I think it's actually it's a fact that well-known people say that hotel industry is very affected during the pandemic, and you are one of the hotelier. I think maybe what are the things that you would like to share, during the pandemic, what was happened to your hotel, what are the issues and challenges that you faced, so perhaps you could share your stories.
Right. So, first and foremost, I would like to share a bit of my background. I am not hotelier to begin with. I'm a corporate finance guy. So the whole idea is actually to find an investment that is sustainable, yeah, and can basically help me to basically improve my investment portfolio. So I started into LaCrista Hotel Malacca, which used to be known as Avilion Hotel Malacca, where I've got this opportunity to buy over the building from a bank back in 2019. So the deal was completed on 1st January 2020,
right before the MCO.
Yes, right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So what really happened was there was a lot of ambiguity during the initial stage of MCO. Everybody was talking about, it's just going to be for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's going to be for a month. Then it's going to be, it's going to be another 2 weeks. So there was a lot of ambiguity, and we were very anxious. We didn't know what to do at any point in time. Whether can we, restart our business immediately, or what do we do? So it turns out that what was supposed to be like 2 weeks turned out to be 2 years. So we lost a lot of business opportunity. So during the pandemic, from March 2020 until December 2021, we lost almost 365 1 year of business days. So there's a huge losses that we incur.
Convert into Malaysian ringgit.
Convert
if you
into
don't mind
Malaysian ringgit,
sharing?
it's about 15 to 20 million ringgit.
It's a very substantial amount.
Yes, it is very substantial amount for one hotel. Yeah. So, but what really taken us aback was the ambiguity of things. We didn't know how long the pandemic would happen, and what would be the step be taken by the government to help us to be sustainable in our business. So there were some steps taken by the government, and we were very happy, with what some of the steps. But I think more can be done, and well, until now, more can be done. That's as much as I can say.
What's your? I mean, have the business recovered?
Well, until today, the business in hospitality has not recovered fully, but we see some positive sign, and the result have shown some positive numbers. We are hopeful that it will be better with the influx of foreign tourists.
All right. So hopefully it could be recovered soon as possible to the stage where the pre-pandemic. What do you think? Could we go to the stage where the business will return back to the pre-pandemic stage?
I think we will achieve that. Just to give you some numbers, in 2019, there were about close to 20 million foreign tourists that came to Malaysia. This year, unfortunately, the ministry only forecasted about 15 million. We're still short of 5 million. That's a huge number. So, and we are looking at next year, 2024, for the numbers to go back as per pre-pandemic. So, hopefully, that will happen. But I still think that there is a lot of work that needs to be done by the government and also, private sectors to ensure that we can get the influx of tourists.
Would you like to share what were the measures that have you been undertaken during that period?
For a start, we enjoyed the moratorium period given by the banks. We are very thankful for that. And secondly, we do get some help in respect of salary payment, where we're being given some amount of money to basically give us a bit of a buffer to help us to pay salary to our staff. But that only tantamount to like half of the whole amount that we have to spend. During the pandemic period, up until December 2021, we have to fork out, the shareholders have to fork out for my company about more than 200,000 per month.
Just to cover the operational.
Yes, to cover the operational expenses.
I see. All right. So I think that could really affect, and your cash flow will be at that particular time. I believe it's very tight cash flow.
Yes. It has adversely affected our cash flow position, where the initial idea was actually to renovate the hotel. So the renovation exercise has taken longer than what expected. So it obviously, has a waterfall effect, where due to that, our income, which we're supposed to generate, has to be dragged. We are still surviving at this point in time.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I mean, you're mentioning about a few things quite interest my queries about the survival journey of your hotel. I suppose when you mentioned about 200 per month, it's equivalent about more than 1 million per year. So it's a very huge of money. But as compared to, this is actually the hotel industry, I would say, maybe in the category of small or medium.
Yes, we are under SME.
And SMEs, right?
Yes.
So
I have in my hotel 237 rooms. Yeah, with 2 restaurants. Yeah. So and we are employing currently about 150 staff.
150 is actually falls under SMEs.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, the amount is huge. But I would like to bring my attention to Prof. Dr. Melati. You conducted research on hawkers, which is totally a different size of business and type of business, where when we look at the quantum of money that need to be forked out by the shareholders in the hotel, I suppose it's not comparable with the hawkers. But I believe they are unique issues and challenges. So based on your research, Prof, what are the things that you think worth to highlight on the experience of hawkers during the pandemic in terms of their business operation and livelihood?
Yeah, so I think to understand hawkers, we need to understand there's sort of 2 types of hawkers almost. There's the hawker that was the hawker before COVID, and then there were a sort of segment that became hawkers because of the pandemic. So this actually included a number of fresh grads, sadly enough, who couldn't get jobs, so they just started selling whatever they could. People who basically thought, hey, their salaries got cut down. So they decided to sort of supplement income by selling stuff. So that is that category. But we also have, of course, people who have been doing this for like 15, 20 years. So they both had, I think, quite different problems, but similar in the sense that I think one of the biggest issues for them during that time, which we don't do anymore, is actually the cost of complying with SOPs. So if you remember back then, when we started operations again, the sellers actually had to be responsible for the social distancing. The sellers had to be responsible for buying hand sanitizer and all of this stuff, like masking, even though we were outdoors. We didn't know back then, right? So there were a lot of these costs that actually added up to quite a bit. And in our study, we found that actually on average, they spent around 150 to 300 ringgit per month on this, which is a lot, right? These are not big time sellers. These are people selling like kueh for like 5, 6 ringgit. So that's a large number that sort of takes away from their profit margins. I think that was a very pretty large issue with them. And then another issue that maybe we can get into a bit later is that a lot of the bantuan given by the government actually did not really impact them in any meaningful way. So in terms of the number of grants given to sort of these hawkers was very small. That's one. And number 2 is the biggest chunk of assistance was actually through expanded access to credit, which actually all of the people that we studied said they did not want to take on more credit because they were not sure whether or not they could repay the credit. So in a sense, they did not really benefit, I would say, from most of the stimulus packages. So that was a bit difficult for them.
What about the market itself?
So the market itself actually grew because we all were stuck home, right? So people wanted to sort of buy things and consume things, and I think there was a lot of pent-up demand. But the issue there was, again, technology, because it didn't make sense for these individual hawkers to actually deliver food to you, so they had to rely on different food delivery apps, which take a quite large proportion, so 25 to 35% of sales that they make has to be given back to the platform. So that was also a problem. I mean, the margins for this F&B is quite small, as I'm sure Dato knows. So and for low-level F&B, even worse. So I think the fact that in order to get the product to the customer, they had to actually pay money essentially was not ideal.
Yeah, you mentioned about the low margin for the hawkers business operation, right? But during the pandemic, I think people can see that there is a growth and flooded of players in that particular market also sharing the same cake.
Yeah, and actually, so we found that actually the easiest, we did some machine learning on looking at Google Images, and we found that actually the number of hawkers that use the folding table, so the most basic folding table and a chair and a kemah, that actually increased by more than 150% during the pandemic.
I see.
So it agrees with our intuition that everybody started selling stuff. Yeah.
What about the the permit and whatnot? So those are registered business or?
Yeah, so actually all of the people we had spoken to, because the SOPs were so tight, they could actually not hawk unless they had a license. So permit and license was fine. I think for KL in particular, there was sort of an allowance for people to actually just go and set up wherever they want within a particular area. So that was not an issue actually for them. The issue was, again, getting their product to the consumer itself.
I see.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the issues of the flood of players in the hawkers industry?
Yeah.
What happened now? What is your observation?
So remember I said there's sort of two groups, right? So I think the group that entered the hawking because they didn't have jobs, essentially, I think that group has grown smaller. So now that more people are employed in salaried jobs and stuff like that, so I think overall the number of hawkers that we see on the road is also decreasing.
I see.
I think it's still actually above pre-pandemic levels. But I think people are sort of returning to quote normal in a sense.
I see. Before we go to the break, I just want to end up with one last question that triggered my mind. Do you observe any sense of the capability, financial management capability for the hawkers? I believe like hoteliers, medium-sized industry, they have a proper accounting and whatnot. So for these hawkers, what is your observation?
So we entered the study thinking they did not have good financial management, but it turns out they do. And in fact, we were quite surprised to hear that none of them wanted to actually take loans because they were not sure they could repay them. So it was quite responsible in a sense. So so that was good, but the bad part was that because costs were increasing due to all these SOP and stuff like that, they actually had to dig into savings to cover the operational costs. So that part is not good, but I think it was necessary for them to survive.
I see. All right. So yeah, very interesting. But we take a break and we will come back. We will be right back and stay tuned.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Insights, brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center, FEWRC. We are still talking about the challenges faced by the SMEs. We try to uncover what are the hidden stories faced by those businesses. And we had talked about the challenges in terms of the market players. We're talking about the challenges of the fund to recover. Shareholder need to fork out money to sustain the business and whatnot. So I would like to continue with the question to Dato. Maybe you would like to elaborate more on how bad was the situation, and maybe if you could cite some examples of what actions has been taken, and maybe what are the lessons learned, whether it's effective or not. Your story?
So it was extremely bad. Extremely bad.
We feel you, Dato. We feel you.
Yes. So I doubt it because I'm the one who's carrying the burden until now. But yeah, it is extremely bad. The first thing that we need to do is basically to have a mindset change, change of mindset. We were not ready for this. I don't think that anyone in the world was ready for it. So we had to have a change of mindset where we need to realize that, look, we are in different situation altogether right now, and we are not the only one who is affected by it. So the change of mindset is very tough, yeah, because we need to realize that there is no business, yeah, and we need to incur costs. So that's a double whammy: no income, and we need to expense some more. So we need to fork out more money. So, and at the same time, we don't know how long it will last. So we didn't see light at the end of tunnel in 2020 or even in 2021. And even in 2022, we were back in the dark. I think it was in March and April because it was Omicron for a couple of months. We lost almost 1 million ringgit worth of business, cancellation of events, and bookings during that 2 months. So it was really tough. Yeah. So what we have done initially, change of mindset. So we have to be ready. Next, we got to restructure all the debts that we have. So by doing that, we basically telling our creditors that, look, we have been adversely affected, and we know you are too in the same boat. Yeah. Therefore, work with us. Yeah, to see this thing through, and we'll pay off all the debts eventually. Yeah, when the good times comes back. So that was the initial idea, and obviously we've got help from our banks. Yeah, namely SME Bank Malaysia. So they were very understanding of our situation because we are not the only hotel that was affected. All hotels in Malaysia, even their portfolio was basically in red. Yeah, so they realized that, and they give us the help that we needed. Yeah, in times they do give us loan. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice. Yeah, we have to take the soft loan with an attractive interest rate in order for us to survive and make sure that our staff are being paid even though they are not working. Yeah, so we survived for, if I'm mistaken, pandemic was in 3 stages. Yeah, we survived in the 2 stages. The third stage, we couldn't survive anymore, so we told our staff, look, you got to take a break. You can go on leave, unpaid leave, unfortunately, because I've been paying them for the 2 stages, and it's taking a toll in terms of our cash flow. So we had to let them go to take a break, and some of them actually set up stalls and become hawkers. Yeah, those who are basically chef started to sell things online. Yeah, but the funny part is that when we started to come back to business in 2022, when we wanted to call them back to join us, some of them quite reluctant because they would
Maybe
be
they are
fine.
already at the hawker side.
Precisely.
They moved to group 1 of hawkers. They're happy there.
Yes. So they were doing fine with all the online businesses and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them, who were working with me, have came back to business. I mean to work. Yeah. So basically agree to what you have mentioned just now, Doctor, that you've seen the numbers reducing in terms of the AUKUS numbers, and they have returned back to work.
That was I believe it's like a temporary relief for them.
Yes.
Just in order to survive for a certain period of time.
Just to share our experience, in November 2021, there was actually Pilihan Raya Kecil Negeri Melaka.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can imagine, Melaka became an attention of the entire nation, and everybody, came to Melaka to basically campaign for their parties and whatnot. And our hotel suddenly has become this center. So we have had, people from Pakatan Harapan, we've got from PAS, Amanah, everyone, and even UMNO for that matter in our hotel. And at that point in time, we were having problem with manpower.
Yeah.
Because most of our chefs decided to become
Hawkers.
So I had no choice but to basically outsource, our kitchen to third party, to restaurants, so that we can actually feed these delegates, our guests. So it's really interesting, yeah. And one lesson learned is that, well, actually for pandemic, I don't know whether you can learn anything or not, because I don't think that it's coming back. Hopefully
not.
it won't come back. But if it does, then one thing that we would learn is, as an investor, we have to realize when to cut loss. If you need to close down the business, we got to close down immediately, so that we don't drag it. Because it's just going
Painful.
to bleed us.
Yeah.
The money should have been saved for better use in future.
I see. So I think that also being applicable to those chef, cut the point, take the retrenchment, go and do
Something
business
else.
on
Yeah,
it.
something else. If it is successful, continue. If it's not, they can always come back and work.
Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned about very inspiring measures just now on the mindset. I think that could be, that should be the first thing that those who are being affected does. For example, if those who have financial stress, for example, so in order for them to recover from that stress, what they need to do is basically take a break and reflect and change the mindset, realizing that you are not alone. And number two, that you are mentioned about you going to banks and negotiate. That is also one of the things that some businesses need to do, because our observation when we talk about the repayment assistance, because AKPK provides repayment assistance, and we realize that some of business owners are actually reluctant to, they are not forthcoming to come and negotiate. I think that is absolutely not a good strategy for the business. They have to go and negotiate, right? When it's come to that, especially.
As I said, the change of mindset is critical. So you got to realize and accept the fact that, yes, I'm in trouble. Yeah, I'm in trouble and I have difficulty. So I need to go out and seek help. Yeah, so that's what I've done. So with the banks, it's easier because everybody else is facing the same. But with the trade creditors, it's different because it's almost like if you don't pay, I don't supply. Then who's going to cook? There's stuff like that. We've got manpower issues, we've got supply issues and whatnot. But the good thing is that when you are forthcoming, be direct with the creditors, they would understand because they also been supplying to other hotels and other hotels face the same problem. Yeah. So when we tell them, look, what I've done is that I've done scheme of arrangement. So this is based on my experience in Dana Harta, where I've done a lot of restructuring. So I've done scheme of arrangement with all my creditors. So I will tell them, look, this is a scheme arrangement that I have for you. Do you accept? If you accept, then it's business as usual. But if you don't accept, then let's negotiate further. Yeah. And obviously, we break up the creditors into the preferential creditors, the secured creditors and unsecured. So we talk to all of them, yeah, so that they understand the position that we are in. And we are not running away. The building is there, the hotel is there, and we're going to be there. So we're not running away. We're going to pay you, but give us time, yeah. And obviously, you also want to do business with us. So let's have a continuous business, right? And harmony. So that's the whole idea.
Exactly. Those are very good examples of sustaining the business by doing some measures that I think it works, right? Because you're still standing, operating the hotel business. And I would like to move to hawkers. Same goes to hawkers, right? So like Dato' mentioned, the factors of, the survival ability is basically able to change mindset and able to negotiate and look at things and how can we do better. What about hawkers? What are the determining factors of that survival ability of the hawkers?
So I think there are a couple different things. So the first thing, I think I wanted to come back to what you say about so many players are in the market, right? So I think whether or not you are selling a unique product on the market really made a difference. So if you're selling like popia and like there's 20 people in the neighborhood selling popia,
to do the product
it's very hard to sell
differentiation.
popia, yeah. But if you're selling like, I don't know, popia with something else that makes it a bit different, I think that was shown that did help the people. The second thing was actually access to technology. So whether or not they were able to either sell through Instagram or sell through WhatsApp, or were in a WhatsApp group in a neighborhood where they could easily blast out what they were selling. Whether they could take basically their business and put it on Foodpanda, put it on Grab. I think that made a big difference. To us, it may seem like very simple, but actually there is an onboarding process to get on the platform that a lot of hawkers were not able to do very well. So that kind of determined whether or not you could get your product to consumers. We also, sadly, I think availability of backup savings did make a difference. So do you have, some amount of money to rely on while you figure out this business, while you figure out suppliers? Because that was also an issue as maybe we are traumatized to remember, but supply of food was quite an issue during the pandemic. So when inputs are difficult to get, then it's hard to produce outputs, right? So I think those who were able to source or maybe had connections or something like that, people who could actually sell them raw products, I think did better.
When you talk about the savings that they used during the pandemic, is it fair to say that those who have savings have a certain level of financial literacy? They have the awareness that they have to have savings in order to survive during the financial stress.
Yeah, so I think one thing we saw was that, yes, I agree. I think a lot of them also, I was surprised by this, because I thought they would not dig into their savings. Yeah, but no, they had savings and they dug into it and they knew that they didn't want to, that was a bad thing to dig into your savings. Some of them took out EPF when that was allowed as well.
That helps,
yeah, that helped a little bit. But I think the people who did not have savings that we spoke to were actually the people who were fresh grads, who did not have savings, but now have to go and sell ayam goreng. And so they relied primarily on parents, giving them some money to just sustain themselves. But they were also aware that, they just didn't have time to build up savings. So
I see. Yeah. So currently, I mean, now when you look at the group who actually hawkers before the pandemic and they actually survived during the pandemic, and now they are still going on and do it.
Yeah.
So this is actually a quite good case where we can look at what is actually maybe the what do you call that, the real factor that could
sustains
be able
them
for them to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you?
So I think the main one for that group is actually being connected to other hawkers. So one thing we studied quite a bit was actually the function of hawker organizations or like Persatuan Penjaja. So those actually helped quite a bit because they tell you basically, oh, there's like people here don't buy this stuff, or this is a good spot for us to be. And they negotiated with local law enforcement when there were issues with the SOPs. They would choose locations to be at. So I think being part of an organization like that also gives up a lot of social connections, which really helps. So I think the people who are able to sustain actually are connected to sort of a larger network of people like them.
Meaning they are actually being provided by the good ecosystem and support system.
Yes,
for them to
and the ecosystem is quite amazing actually. So we discovered that it provided not only business help, but it also provided stuff like, oh, if I knew that hawker A wasn't able to pay for a phone for their kids to do virtual schooling, then the organization would raise money to help that person. So it goes beyond the business. It's more like a support ecosystem.
I see. All right. Very interesting. So let's take a break for a while, and we will come back for more discussion and more moving forward pointers to be discussed. So let's take a break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Insights, brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center, FEWRC. There is a very interesting discussion with the guests on the issues and challenges. We look at the survival ability of the businesses, and we're also talking about the we just talked about the ecosystem that support the sustainability of the hawkers. So I would like to move to that talk. When hawkers have this ecosystem to support, like associations, local enforcement parties and whatnot, what about the small and medium business like hotel? What can be done to enhance the ecosystem to support this, require a lot of minor businesses, I would say.
Yeah. So for us, what we need is actually capital to restart our business. it's not easy. I mean, restarting a business is not like switching on, a light. About, it's more than that. You got to make sure that the suppliers are good, the manpower are also good, and of course the market. Yeah, you need to study the market, whether the market is ready to come back to the hotels or not. So in order to do all these, we need capital. So that's the main key part, really. That is what is missing in the market right now, because most of the banks would shy away from hotel industry. They would say, well, it is
High
still
risk.
not, yes, high risk, still not coming back, to the original and stuff like that. So, but having said that, I think government would need to set up special funds, which I was told they've already done it. So special fund have been set up for the banks to basically help to recapitalize the business. So the money will not going to be used as loan anymore, but instead it will be used as equity funding. Yeah. So it will basically lessen the burden of the business, so that we won't be overgeared. Yeah. But at the same time, the bank would also take a position with the business in order to revive it back. So it is interesting, but I haven't felt it yet, because we are still applying for such recapitalization funds. Yeah, but it will be very helpful if we can have that funds, so that we can actually restart our business and get ready for a better future. Yeah, we are expecting a lot of tourists, foreign tourists especially, to come to the hotel next year. So we got to be ready in terms of our rooms. Yeah, the facilities has to be top notch. We got to service all our chillers, you name it. The rooms got to be prep up and stuff like that. More importantly, we need to train our staff, which is going to cost us money. And obviously, we need to make sure that all our debts are being managed properly, so that there won't be any hiccup when the guests do come in. So recapitalization funds is very important, and I'm hopeful that we are able to get that from the government.
I see. All right. So yeah, I think that is needed for your business to be sustained and continue the operation. So what about Prof? You have done research on hawkers, looking at their livelihood and whatnot. So what's next? Research, maybe some researchers out there would like to know what are the research that you need to provide input.
So I think that the hawkers are sort of part of a larger ecosystem which is not as well understood, which is informality. So when we talk about informality, we talk about, in Malaysia, I think that the estimate is in the hundreds of millions of ringgit is generated in the informal economy every year. So that is something that we don't quite understand as much, I think. So there's a lot of potential there. So for example, just to bring in the hawkers again, so these are people, of course, who do not have retirement savings. Many of them actually don't have savings anymore because they used it during the pandemic.
Yes.
They do not have any type of workplace insurance. If a car comes and hits their stall, there's no sort of compensation for any of that, right? So they're very precarious. And so when we're thinking about precarious workers, there's a lot more to sort of look into that sphere, I would say. But the other thing that is actually kind of interesting to me is, and as we know now with AI and GPT, ChatGPT and whatnot, is sort of how people in this sector will use technology to their advantage. I think we saw, like I said before, people who were able to tap into technological tools, even though they were simple, like WhatsApp, did better, right? So how is the future going to look like for this group, and how will they use that in order to kind of grow and to sustain themselves?
All right, very interesting. You mentioned in your previous comment on the enabler of the survivability for hawkers is actually adoption to digital.
Yes.
Where digitalization is actually enable those hawkers to be sustained, to reach out to the customers and whatnot. However, I think, like you just mentioned, there is research need to be done how the adoption is really useful for the
Yeah.
hawkers when they need to be, get certain level of the technical savvy
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Have to
Some
pay
have to pay
commission. Yeah.
Right.
So those things need to
Yeah.
be looked
Addressed.
into. Yeah.
Yes.
So they're very interesting. So yeah, it's a very wise suggestion. So maybe we can bring it that to a conversation to the respective parties. So yeah. I think it's wrap our discussion where some of the key pointers that I captured during from the first round until the end, where we somehow understand what are the challenges being faced by the businesses. We have two different type of businesses, and also some enablers that enable different businesses to be sustained, and some wish list from Dato, and also a research area that we could look into it moving forward. So I think hopefully we can have some more insights as the takeaways for us to move forward, and also to achieve the aspiration of creating a sustainability environment for the businesses, so that we could spur our economies in the future. So with that, I would like to thank again Prof. Dr. Melati from Asian School of Business, and Dato' Rosman from LaCrista Hotel. And I'm Afrikin Mohtar, your host for the Insights. Until we meet again, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Bye-bye.
Let's go.